Welcome back to Felicity Was Here. I'm Heather.
I'm Melissa.
And I'm Dr. Joe.
And today we are discussing Felicity Season 1, Episode 10. Finally. And that's the name of the episode. I'm not saying we're finally talking about Episode 10. That's the name of the episode. So we are back. How was everyone's holiday weekend?
Very chill.
Good.
Very relaxing.
Awesome.
And yours?
Oh, mine was great. Yeah, mine
Okay.
was relaxing, had some good family time, got to hang out with my little niece a bunch, and she's growing up so fast. It's crazy how fast it happens. So,
Aw,
yeah, it's good to hang out.
excellent.
But last week was Thanksgiving, where Noel and Hannah broke up. Noel and Felicity made out in the bathroom, and Julie wrestled with if and when to tell her parents about her sexual assault. And this week, Felicity and Noel tried to delay determining their relationship until after finals, and Ben begins a new relationship. We also finally get to meet Richard Code. Maybe that's why the episode's called Finally. We finally meet Richard, who's played by Rob Benedict, who I think was also a regular on Supernatural.
Yes.
I have never seen the show, but from IMDb, it looks like he was in that show quite a bit.
He was pretty important.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He was in
Yeah.
later seasons.
No spoilers.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Also, another fun fact. He was totally at the same YouTube concert that I was at. He was at the
Oh,
same
yeah.
exact show that I was at.
Oh my
God, you should've-
gosh.
Did you ask him to be on our podcast?
Not yet. I'm waiting for the right time.
That would have been the right
That,
time.
I mean, I don't know if you're going to find a better time.
Well, I didn't see him. I saw what he posted after the fact. I was way too close to the stage to see anybody else except for Bono and the Edge and the other two guys that were
And
there.
usually the celebs get like box seats and stuff. Although you were
Yeah,
front row, I
yeah,
mean,
definitely.
that had to be awesome. But
Yeah.
like even for all the Eras tours, I feel like celebs aren't front row. They're in like special box seats.
Yeah, definitely. And like Tom Hanks was there too, and Rita Wilson and Bryan Cranston and Ed Sheeran also were at the same
All
show.
at the same show as you?
Tom Hanks?
Yes.
What?
Yes,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I know. Again, I found out after the fact, but
Mhm.
it was so cool.
Yeah, I
We
guess
were in the same space together.
celebs probably don't post like in real time because they don't want stalkers.
Nah. I don't know why.
Well, so there you go. He's a U2 fan in real life, but on Felicity, Rob Benedict plays Richard, who is a kind of a sniveling freshman, another of Noel's advisees who just loves to bother Noel. And this is his first episode, but he becomes pretty much a regular on the show down the road, whereas some of the other advisees we don't see ever again, but Richard will keep coming back.
And from what I understand, he was only supposed to be in one episode, but they liked what he brought to the character and kept him on.
I mean, he was funny. He was funny in this episode.
Yeah, totally.
So many quotables. The I'm going to report your ass. Like that
Yes.
was perfect comedic timing.
It's gold.
So should we get into it?
All right,
Yes.
let's go.
All right. Episode 10. Can you believe it? We've already been through 10 episodes here. It's nuts. But this week, we open with Felicity recording her tape to Sally, of course, and she tells Sally that there was kissing between her and Noel, but neither knew what it meant. And so we see Felicity and Noel sitting on his bed, and basically they're trying to DTR. They are like, let's define this relationship, but neither of them knows what the kissing means. And just when they were about to start talking it out and figuring stuff out, Noel's phone rings. And it's his mom, who tells Noel that his Uncle Kenny drove into a chicken truck because he has narcolepsy, not necrophilia.
That was good.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
so many little funny
Yes.
little lines just snuck in this episode.
Noel then has to basically leave. Just as they're about to define their relationship, or at least have the talk, he's got to go help out his family and, take care of Uncle Kenny, maybe look at funeral arrangements if it's really dire. And so he's got to go. So he packs up really quickly and he's at the elevator with Felicity to say goodbye. And he says, hey, don't transfer to another school while I'm gone. She says, I won't. He says, or forget about your RA, who is me. She says, I won't. And he says, well, the correct answer is I couldn't, but, that's okay. And then he sends one of the other advisees who's in the lobby around them, sends them to go get the floor calendar, which is always a thing that comes up, to get him out of the room so that Noel can plant a big one on Felicity because he wasn't sure about kissing her in public when they don't really know what everything is yet. Then, just as the elevator's going to close, he says, "Oh, and don't hook up with Ben while I'm gone." And she says, okay. And then, like, the elevator doors shut and we go into the intro. And I'm like, wait a minute, excuse me, Felicity? Like, as if it's even an option for her to hook up with Ben while Noel is gone. But also, that Ben necklace was very, very shiny in that scene. And I'm sure that that was intentional.
Yeah, and I actually didn't notice that until I saw your notes and I said, "Whoa, now it's blinding me in
it
my
was like
eyes. It's so
glaring.
shiny." Truly.
She has to wear it. It would be rude not to.
Every
Of course,
day.
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. She never takes it off, so
It's-
of course it's gonna be every day.
It's a replacement for the one her grandma gave her, so she.
I
wore
don't
that
even
one
think
over
she
there.
wore that crusty old necklace every single day.
She did.
She
She
All
did. It
right.
was on all the
did.
time. Yeah, that one was.
All the
So I
time in the first 3 episodes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
I have a lot of thoughts about just even this amount of stuff that's happened in the episode so far.
get into it. Let's hear it.
Yes. So she starts out telling Sally that Noel was really interested in the parameters and the boundaries. Like she used those words, not just like, what is it? What are we? But boundaries. And then he gets called to go be a fixer and a rescuer. He's thrust into this position of rescuing his family during this time of crisis. And I think that's interesting because I would still say, like, he's a kid as far as the family hierarchy goes. He's a college kid. He's not the uncle or the grandfather. He's the nephew. He's the great nephew. He's just a kid and he has to take on all these adult responsibilities. Fine, maybe he's 18, 19 years old. He's not a child. But I think it's interesting that he's put into that role of kind of handling all this stuff. Where are the other adults? And Felicity explained his dad couldn't go, but why couldn't his mom? So, and why
It
does
sounded
he
like she
have to
might
go?
have been hysterical. I mean,
Well,
it's
that's what I
it's fair.
mean.
Like,
That's
she's an adult, but also, like, I could see where, like, if something huge happened in my family, I would go home to pretty much ASAP and help out as much as I could. I don't know if it's, like, crossing a boundary
I
unless,
mean, help
like
out as much. It seems like he had to take the helm from what
Yeah.
I took it as, and I think that's inappropriate.
Mm.
And her being hysterical, why is he taking care of her?
Mhm.
Like it's supposed to be the other way around. So I'm just seeing like some role reversal stuff, some parentification. Just mild, maybe I'm reaching a little bit, but we'll keep going and keep exploring
Well, and
that.
we don't know this yet. Noel has a brother. Isn't he the youngest?
Exactly. And I didn't want to say that.
Yeah,
He's-
the brother's
Yeah,
the
Noel's the
oldest,
younger
older brother. Yeah.
Yeah, so
right.
that
And
is
again, we don't know
surprising.
this yet, but
Right.
that was in the back of my head too. I'm like, why is the youngest one in the family of our knowledge of his family structure? Like, why is he having to do everything? Like, he has to be pulled away from college, like on the edge of finals. He has to go take care of all this. I think that's nuts.
Yeah,
Same
it
reason
sucks.
they make him wear trench coats just to make him look like a sexy, mature dad.
Hey, trench coats are back in again.
I just said he was sexy. Yes.
Well, I guess the extension of this is that if he's used to be in this dynamic of a fixer and rescuer, I wonder if that's part of the reason why he's drawn to Felicity because she needs a ton of rescuing constantly, all the times like she's gone to him with his RA advice kind of stuff. Like,
And he became an
wonder
RA. Like, he must just love
Yeah,
being
exactly,
the
like-
problem solver. Yeah.
yeah, so I wonder if that's part of his attraction to her. Obviously, she's, very beautiful and kind and smart and all the things. And she needs a lot of rescuing.
Actually, a lot of the guys on the show have kind of a savior complex. Not come to think of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to get into that later
Yeah,
too. Don't worry.
I'm sure. Good on that scene. Other thoughts?
No, I'm good to go.
Okay. So Noel up and leaves, and Felicity tells Sally that he was basically only supposed to be gone for a couple of days, but then all of a sudden, a week and a half had passed. So then we see Julie studying in Felicity's room with her, and she basically is just in disbelief. She's like, "How are you not freaking out right now?" And Felicity's like, "What?" As if she has to ask. Julie's like, you made out and then he left and you basically haven't figured anything out. What does it all mean?" And Felicity says, "Well, why can't it just be what it is?" And Julie says that it's not that easy. Like, are you dating? Can you see other people? What expectations do you have? And do you really want to be the rebound girl? And Felicity's like, "Hey, I am not the rebound girl." But she basically comes back and says,
Kinda, yeah.
"Yeah, kind of." But she's like, "But also like, I don't know." Like she just didn't have the answer to any of those questions. And those are also all the questions that we had about Noel and Hannah's relationship.
Coincidentally, yes.
But then who should appear and break through the door but Noel? He basically ran up like 5 flights of stairs, is sweating and breathing heavily, but he's back with his luggage and says hi, and then Julie, finds an excuse to scurry off and give them some time alone. And another little funny, like you said, just a couple of phrases here or there really funny, and he's like, "Yeah, that wasn't subtle." She's like, "You're welcome." So that was yeah, I thought that was cute that Julie gave them time together. And Noel basically says his uncle's gonna make a full recovery, which is great. But Noel grabs her and starts making out with Felicity, but then kind of like stops and looks pissed. And she's like, "Wait, what? Like, what did I do?" But he said, "No, like, I've had no chance to study because he was running around making funeral arrangements, comforting people. But then his great uncle made a full recovery. So he wasted all that time and didn't have a chance to study for finals." And he says that his educational future lies in the balance, but all he wants to do is hang out with Felicity and figure out what's going on.
Going back to the boundaries, he was again running around comforting everyone, and it's just really interesting that he wanted some really strict parameters and well-defined boundaries with their relationship, but he can't tell his family, "Hey, I can't comfort you. Like, let me study for an hour, maybe." He got zero amount of work done, so that's just interesting and
Yeah.
unhealthy. I think. Like, I think that's disrespectful to his situation. Like, it had to be about them when there's other adults around.
Yeah.
Come on.
But I think it's cute that he just wants to spend time with her now.
Oh yeah, that's totes adorbs.
Oh, yeah.
Heather's loving this.
Oh,
Loving
God,
it.
I love it so much. Oh, but basically, Felicity says that if they hung out and just talked about what was going on, that they wouldn't get a lot of work done. So they both decide that they're going to just try to be good and not see each other until after finals are over so that they can get all their work done. But, in the show, none of your plans go as you want them to. So then at the loft, Sean is wheeling in loads of boxes of fruit and a cooler for his next entrepreneurial venture. Basically, he tells Ben that he's going to go around to the library to sell fruit to undernourished college students who are studying for finals, and that all of the vitamins and minerals in fruit are really great for studying. And Ben's like, "Best of luck in your future endeavors." Whatever you want to do. But Ben's going to go study, and so he ends up leaving the loft. And in the cafeteria, it's as quiet as ever with everyone studying. I think it's a weird place to study. Like, but it looks like everyone in this school studies literally in every crevice of
I
every
think it's
building.
full. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's maxed out.
Yeah.
There's no real estate left unless you go to the
I
cafeteria.
have so much to say about these weird places that these people are studying all through the episode. I don't understand it all. They all have dorm rooms. Just go to your dorm room. Anyway,
I wondered that
this,
as well,
I was
to
going to
be
say that.
honest.
I studied either in my dorm room,
yeah.
or the library. That was it.
I never even went to the library. Like, unless I really needed a book there, which really never happened. So, anyway, continue.
One of our libraries gave out free coffee during finals week, so that's why we went there.
That'll do it.
Oh, yeah. That's actually where I
Say
first started
less.
drinking. Yeah, that's where I actually started drinking coffee, was freshman year in college. Otherwise, I didn't really like coffee, but then that finals week, that free coffee, it got me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love it.
So Elena and Felicity are at a table together in the cafeteria, and Elena is working her M&M system that she has for studying for finals. We don't actually get the details of what this system is. We just know that it involves a stopwatch and a lot of M&Ms, and she's obviously very intense about it. But Felicity notices a guy in the cafeteria who's like wearing headphones, looking at catalogs or magazines or something, comic books, and he just looks super chill and happy. And she is just completely baffled by this, that he's not more stressed out. And she's like, "Elena, look at this guy. How is he not stressed out?" She's like, "Well, why don't you go ask him?" And so Felicity does go ask him because she's got to butt into this guy's life. So she goes over and basically asks him how he is so chill right now. And he says that he's on a regimen of antidepressants And he actually then proceeds to recommend his doctor to Felicity because she's always wearing sweaters and is intense, that she needs to lighten up. And I'm like, first of all, dude, where do you get off? Like, recommending pills to someone. And he even, like, hands her one of his own pills and says, like, here you go. The lighter the pill, the lighter the mood. Like, I'm sorry. First of all, don't share medications and prescriptions. You don't know what else she's taking and how it could mix. And we see in the episode that if you take things you don't know what's in them, bad things happen. So I thought that was, yeah, I did not like this dude, like giving her advice on not being intense and insulting her sweaters. Please.
He was smiling when he said that she was wearing sweaters. I didn't take it as a jab.
He's smiling the
And-
whole time because he's on a lot of drugs.
Exactly.
He's
Yeah.
on drugs.
Yeah. So he's just trying to share his happiness with others. And yes, it's inappropriate to share medication, obviously. But she says when he's talking about lining up, she says, "I want to. I'm trying," and then she turns down the pill and says she would rather be intense. So I think this is just another little way to highlight how conflicted Felicity often is and how she often contradicts herself. I want to lighten up. I'm trying. I want to remain intense. Where else do we see a conflict like that? Ben versus Noel? Come on. This is just
in
more of
many
her
ways.
personality streak. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This is just another little way that they show that to us.
Well, but I could also see her saying, like, yeah, I'm trying to lighten up, but I'm not depressed. Like, you don't take antidepressants because you're intense or a serious person. Like, you take it if you have
Right.
depression. So I could also see her being
Yeah,
like, I'll
totally.
just stay intense.
Yeah.
But he said, "Do you want to?" He ended the sentence. He said drug free, and then she filled in intense. So
Mm.
she could have said drug free, but because he put that out there for her, she specifically replied with intense. That's why I think it was done that way on purpose to highlight how she doesn't know what she wants.
I think you're reaching here.
I am always reaching.
It's a little
I'm
intense
always
for this
reaching.
scene. Wow.
She contradicted herself. She wants two completely opposite things.
All right.
I will say, I will not drug shame anyone. If he needs antidepressants, you take them.
Oh, totally.
I'm on anxiety meds.
just
like,
saying-
if you need them,
yeah.
take them. But like, don't give them to people and tell them what to do
Exactly.
with their health and their mental health. Unless like you're serious, you think she needs help, but like he knows nothing about her. It's just she wears sweaters and she's very serious.
Well, to be fair, she came up to him. He did not go approach her and say, "Hey, you're looking really intense. Why don't you take some medication?"
I
She went up
wish
to
that
him
were a
and said, "Hey,
scene.
you're
That'd
looking
be
really
funny.
chill." Yeah, but she's the one who initiated the conversation, and she interfered with his space and said, like, "I'm noticing you looking really chill," and then that's how it opened up. So he
Fair
wasn't
enough.
seeking this
Fair
out.
enough.
She opened that door.
She did Badinsky this. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a question for you, Joe. And I do re-listen
Okay.
to our episodes.
Uh-oh.
Not only when we're editing, but once they publish. You got to get those listens, those stream numbers up. But I think you would agree that you can be hard on Felicity sometimes. You love
said
this.
that.
You love this show.
Yes.
Why do you like this show when you don't like Felicity?
No, I like her as a whole person. I
Okay.
don't like some of her behaviors.
Okay.
Which is another good psychology thing. A lot of people think like, "Oh, that person hates me." No, we don't like that behavior you're displaying. So like I separate the person from the behavior. I think she's a really good person at heart. I think she's incredibly immature in the first season and she grows up, but that's kind of the point of the show. It's a coming of age, hence she's going to mature over time. So I think I'm just kind of that other side of the coin where it's, yeah, she's very endearing. It's like, yeah, she's also flawed, just like Ben is flawed, and Noel is flawed, and Julie is flawed, and Elaine is flawed. Javier's perfect, but you know, everyone else has their stuff, and I'm gonna call it when I see it.
All right. Although season 3 for him gets a little rough too, but
Yeah.
I definitely think that on this rewatch, at my age, like I'm not as like infatuated with her. I don't think she's as cool as I thought she was when I watched this when I was, in high school or whenever this came out.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's interesting. Don't really like look up to her as much.
yeah, I definitely don't think she's perfect by any means. I do think she's endearing and relatable, and at that age I was probably also just as immature. I mean, I'm hella immature now. Like,
Yeah, right. Yeah, me too.
I'm still a mess.
Yes.
But yeah, I was just curious because it seemed like we're always calling out Felicity. I'm like, do you like her or the show? Or maybe
I
it's
think it's
like
really great
the
writing.
drama, just good drama.
Yeah,
okay.
I love the drama of it,
Yeah.
and I think it's great writing because they are so flawed. I appreciate that it's not like black and white. It's like there's this gray in the middle, and it makes them more human and more relatable. And that's why I like it. If she was super perfect, then it would be much more boring, and I probably wouldn't watch the show and enjoy it as much as I do.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it through a psych lens, so I am gonna see things differently than a casual viewer might. Even this episode, I noticed a billion more things than I have ever noticed because I wasn't looking at it that way. So you may call it reaching, and I agree, some of it is reaching, but I think there's some really interesting layers in this episode that are just hiding there because there's so many funny moments. But I pulled back the curtain and I'll tell you what's there.
All right. Well, let's keep going then. So then we go to Noel's room where he's studying, and he goes into his luggage sitting on the bed, assuming that he's going to grab a book. But instead, he pulls out a bunch of like feather boas and sparkly things that look like costumes. And he looks at the tag on the bag, and we get the idea that that's not his bag. So then another advisee bursts into his room, needs advice on how to get out of a certain class because their final is crazy, but Noel is stressing because he picked up the wrong bag. And then he smells a barbecue and asks the advisee, like, what does that smell? She says, oh, that's Richard. He's having a barbecue in his room. And so then Noel has to leave and go figure this out. So then he goes to Richard's room, and he's just so nonchalant, like grilling some burgers and hot dogs in his room, got his apron on. And Noel is furious. And he's like, what are you doing? Like, oh, I was hungry. He's like, this is not an appropriate response to hunger. Like, this is not up to code. And he says that people die of indoor barbecues every day. I was like, okay, Noel, you made that up. And he says that he's going to report Richard to student council. And I think this is a bit of an overreaction because he's overly stressed out. But at the same time, like, yeah, you can't be barbecuing in your room. But I think he probably could have just said, like, hey, put out the fire or the charcoals, like, strike one. Next time
Yeah,
I'm going to
like a
report you.
warning.
Yeah, he like went from 0 to 100 right away. Like, yeah, he was breaking a rule, but like I don't think in a normal situation he would have reported Richard immediately. So yeah, I think Richard
I
did
don't
get the
know.
really okay.
He's always running around with his handbook and like I don't know, man. Well, I
Did
don't
he
know. Yeah,
report Lewis and his knives to student council?
True, true. Or the police, which he should have done.
he should have.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right. Yeah, he was definitely flying off the handle because of his own stuff that was going on, and Richard cut the brunt of that.
Yeah. Wrong place, wrong time.
Poor Richard.
This is just the
I mean, I don't
beginning
feel
of
too
his
bad. Yeah, I don't feel too bad for him because he was barbecuing, grilling in his room, but also like
Right.
yeah, he could have just been like, put it out. You're getting a warning if this ever happens
Yeah.
again. In case you
Get a-
Right.
didn't
Totally.
know that grilling in your room wasn't allowed.
Now you know.
Get a
Mhm.
George Foreman.
That was the college cookware. But like you
Yeah, I
had
was
to
like,
have,
wasn't that popular back
had
then?
to have a George Foreman. That's so true. Although I don't know if that was around in 1998.
Yeah, we'll have
Oh.
to check.
We'll look it up. So then back to the cafeteria, Elena and Felicity are still studying, and Elena's back to her system, and now Felicity's curious. She's like, so how does the system work? And Elena says, oh, first you mock the system, now you want the system. And Felicity's like, well, I never mocked the system. But then Noel comes up to them, and he tells Felicity about his bag switcheroo problem and that it's, a whole crisis and that he's got 3 days to write an essay about great expectations and he's, like he said before, he's got no time to do any of his studying. And he's like, "Can I have an M&M?" And Elena says that he can have just one, but only because of the situation he's in. And then Felicity is like, "Oh, Great Expectations. I actually loved that book," which speaking from personal experience, I hate Dickens with a fiery passion. Like those books are so long. I think he was paid per word and like a penny per word or something. And so those books just go on and on and on. I think I had to read Great Expectations senior year of high school and it was the worst. I don't even know if I finished it and I always finished my homework. So I'm with Noel on this one, but Felicity loves Great Expectations and so she says that she can help him and do her own work. And Noel kind of whispers to her to the side, like, "Oh, well, can we do this without kissing?" And Felicity assures him like that yes, they can just study, but Elena doesn't buy it. She gives them the side eye, like, yeah, kissing. I don't know. I think you're going to be kissing. So now we have Felicity, who is going to be skipping her work to help Noel now. And now we finally get the first finals countdown clock of the series, which is amazing. So we get a slide that says it's 8 p.m., the Berger Memorial Library, and there's 36 hours until finals. So we see Felicity and Noel are cozied up in a little desk cubicle thingy that's probably just for one person, but they're all snuggled up in there. And I swear this was probably like my dream like I was like, "Oh, this is what college is gonna be like, making out in libraries and the stacks." It's like, "Oh, books and Noel put that together, that's the best in my mind."
Best of both worlds.
Oh, yeah. That's, like, my 2 favorite things.
I used to say that all the time. I said I wanted to make out with someone at the library at my school in the stacks, but it never happened.
Oh, I was like, "Did you make it happen?" Oh. So they're cozied up, but Felicity is trying to teach him about great expectations, but Noel is just smelling her. He thinks she smells really good. And then he asks her if she's thought at all about what they are. And she's like, "We can't talk about this now." And then basically they just start making out again and they get all hot and heavy and rustle the sides of the cubicle and then eventually knock over the chair to the ground, which makes both of them flop down on the ground and they cause a whole scene in the very quiet library. And Noel asks, "Does anyone have the time?" Someone gives it to him, and that's how he pretends that they weren't making out. But I also think it's cute that the position they were in was very similar to the boggled scene when Megan walks in. Like it was almost like identical. So yeah, that was a cute callback, I thought, to Boggled.
Yeah, and I don't know if either of you were listening to what Felicity was saying or if you were trying to figure out her smell like Noel, but she was talking about kids being full of guilt and not being nurtured, and parents were either incompetent or absent. And I thought that was really interesting given Noel's predicament this episode of he wasn't getting nurtured, he wasn't getting what he needed, he was taking care of everybody else, and they were incompetent or absent. They weren't there, he was there on the scene. And I think that would apply to Ben as well, with his parents being incompetent or absent. And, definitely with his father, he referenced like he was never at the track meets or whatever and or the graduation and he was clearly incompetent. He was abusive, full on abusive. So I think that's interesting that they kind of have that in common and I didn't realize that before. That
Yeah,
there's some family stuff that's kind of there's an imbalance there.
I noticed the quote, and I think you're absolutely right. But it's also not just this episode. Like you said, like it's Julie who was given up for adoption. Like I think there are so
Mhm.
many interesting kid
Mhm.
and parent dynamics that are
Oh yeah, like
are
even
tackled in
Elena
the show. Yeah.
last time, like with her dad, like not having a lot of enthusiasm and stuff, seems like he's doing his best, but it's just interesting
Hmm.
that
Yeah. I
the
mean,
kids aren't getting what they need.
I wouldn't say Felicity's parents are incompetent, but like there's obviously
No, no,
no, no,
I
no, no. Like there's obviously
yeah.
conflict there too, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the I must run away, she says that's one of the lines, I must run away. What does she do? She and
Yep.
Ben both ran away from California
Yep.
to find what they needed. So I thought that was really interesting, the specific passages that they were reading.
Yeah. And there's more to come that I definitely noticed
Mm-hmm.
too.
Mm-hmm. 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 And P.S. The grill came out in 1994, so they definitely
Oh,
would have had it available to them.
yeah, Richard. Get a George
Aha.
Foreman.
Aha!
All right, so then the countdown continues. Now it's 10:18 p.m. in the silent reading room. 33 hours and 42 minutes to finals. Now we have Ben and Julie studying together in the silent room. And Ben's reading, and then he shuts his book very quickly and forcefully and then slams it down. And because it's the silent room, Ben then whispers to Julie what he's saying, and we get subtitles, which I thought was a very comedic add to the
That was
episode.
hilarious. I
So good.
loved it.
And I think they should always give Ben subtitles in the show because he's always whispering.
Burn.
That's true though.
Although these days I pretty much always have the subtitles on no matter what I'm watching
Yeah.
because you can never hear anything anymore.
100%.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
But Felicity gave us subtitles. And so he tells Julie that there's all these odes that he has to read, and he doesn't understand whatever poetry he's reading. And he's whispering, but it's a silent reading room, so everyone around him shushes him. And that's just too much for Ben. I would get pissed at that too. So Ben's like, let's get out of this silent reading room. But Julie says that she has to go meet some econ people in a different place. But he basically tells her, if you want to meet later and talk about all these different odes, she's welcome to come and meet up with him. And I agree, Ben. Poetry sucks. I really don't like poetry. I don't get
Aw.
it. I don't get it. And I get where he's coming from on this one, too.
Oh, interesting. That's a surprise. But I really liked when he said to some person off screen, "Relax."
That
That's
was
so funny. His
right
line
as
deliveries were so funny.
he's leaving.
Yeah, he was. Everybody had really great comedic timing in this episode. It was really funny. But I especially enjoyed his mannerisms and line delivery.
Oh, I'm sure.
Obviously.
There were some smirks. There were some sly
Yes.
smiles.
Yeah.
So then, countdown continues. Third floor reading room, 10:34 p.m. 33 hours and 26 minutes to finals. So now Felicity is teaching Noel Great Expectations at a very long table, not a private cubicle, in this third floor reading room. It doesn't look like it's a silent room, but they're still like across from each other talking quietly. So then Felicity is basically reading from Great Expectations and says, "Everyone has great expectations, crazy dreams and visions of what our lives could be and make us do ridiculous things, but we can mature and grow out of them." And again, that quote was so
Yeah.
Felicity.
Yes.
That just sums up the whole show, like all 4 seasons.
Yes.
There you go.
That is the
Yeah.
synopsis. That is the synopsis for
Yes.
sure. And Noel is staring at her recite these lines, and she's like, "Noel, dude, like, you gotta learn this stuff because I have my own work to do." And she says, "Have you learned anything?" And then Noel says, "Yeah, that sacrifice and passion, even if it's unappreciated or taken for granted, in the end is meaningful and good." And that's so Noel. And I'm just like, oh my God. I don't think I've ever really picked up on that in any other rewatch. Like, I was probably just obsessed with their relationship. But then when I heard that, I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, he's describing himself there now. And
Yes.
also, I
It's
was
all
like,
coming together.
that quote there would have been like the best aim away message. Like, I probably would have pulled that and put that up in college as my away message for sure. And I
Oh my
think
goodness.
moving forward, I think we should all pick our aim away message of the episode because there's so many good
Ooh.
quotables, so many angsty, amazing quotables in the show. So that's
Right.
my mission that I'm giving to you guys every episode. What's your aim
Love
away
it.
For
message?
this one's relax for me.
Relax.
Relax.
That's very fitting.
Yes.
So then Felicity, they're looking at each other and staring at each other and making moon eyes. And Felicity's like, "Let's go to the stacks."
Yes.
And yes. And Noel says, "Make out until finals are over." She's like, "Just for an hour." So then they run off giggling to the stacks. And so then we see them at the end of one of the aisles, sharing a chair, making out hardcore. But unfortunately, nosy Richard is there too and sees them from the end of one of the aisles of the stacks. And Felicity's like, "Oh, isn't that guy on our floor?" And Noel says, "Oh, hey, Richard." Richard says, "Hey, you're the RA and you're not supposed to be kissing a student." And also, is that a rule though? Like, that seems kind of bizarre. Like, teacher
Yeah.
student is one thing, but like, he's 1 year older than her. I don't know if that's a real rule.
Yeah.
I
I
question
think if
that.
it was, he would have quoted the handbook by now.
True.
Right? Yeah.
And would have said specifically, "Yo, girl, this is gonna get dicey." The handbook says nah.
Yeah, he
But
wasn't
he didn't say that.
Yeah, he wasn't like, "We need to keep this a secret, like, let's define this, but it's gotta be on the download." Like, yeah. So, I don't
Yeah.
know if I believe that.
Just some conflict, just some drama to
Yeah.
spice the episode up even more.
But, Richard thinks that this is against the rules, and he says, "I'm gonna report you. I'm gonna report your ass." And then he runs out of the stacks. And then Noel gets up and runs after him because he's gonna report him. So I guess Noel is threatened by this because he doesn't want to get reported. So maybe it is a rule there, but I think that that's a weird rule. And then Felicity's left on the chair by herself with all of Noel's stuff. So then we get to the card catalog junction, 11:15 p.m., 32 hours and 45 minutes to finals. So Elena is still studying there, and Sean comes by selling his fruit. And Elena doesn't want to have anything to do with him and his fruit. She's like, "Get away from me. I'm studying. I've got my system here." Then Felicity runs up to her with all of Noel's stuff, and Sean also tries to sell her fruit, and she says no. And Sean says, "Do you know the connection between vitamin C and fertility?" And Felicity, deadpan, says, "I don't want to get pregnant. I just want to pass my finals."
Like, read the room, bro. Like, that's not It's not a cell. Come on.
And yeah, and then he's like, "All right, if you don't wanna have kids," and then he leaves. I'm like, I don't think this
This
18-year-old
whole
is
thing was
thinking
about
about
brain
this.
food.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be to help people study. Why are you saying this weird shit?
Yeah, it should be like, "Oh, didn't you know that oranges are great for energy and your brain?" Like, what does fertility
Yeah.
have anything to do with it?
Yeah, that was weird.
But that's Sean.
It just goes to
Okay.
show how inept he is at sales.
Yes. He could have had
Yeah.
a little coffee cart. That would have made him some money.
What a fool.
Well, we see what works later. So
Mhm.
Sean's struggling, but he leaves, and Elena asks Felicity if her and Noel are boning yet. And she's like, "Oh my god, like, no." But then Ben walks up and he says, "Look, I know what I'm asking is stupid, but he's desperate." He says he doesn't understand any of this poetry and he needs help. And Felicity says, "The Keats?" He says, "Yes, and don't say the Keats like it's the easiest thing in the world." And yes, that was
I
also
love this.
great delivery,
Yes.
great delivery. Don't say
That
the
was
Keats.
perfect. Oh my gosh, that was so good.
But also, that is pretty condescending of Felicity to be like, "What, the Keats? Like, what? Like, it's like, it's hard?"
It just comes so naturally to her. She can't
Yeah.
even comprehend that somebody else wouldn't get it.
And so Felicity tries to explain one of the odes or the Feast of St. Agnes or something, and she starts to explain it, and he's like, "Wow, like, didn't get any of that." And he's like, "Look, I need your help," and says that she owes him, that he needs to get a B in the exam, otherwise he'll get a D in the class. But here I'm like, come on, Bet, like, you can't have it both ways. She was absolutely totally wrong to rewrite his essay, but then he was like, "Get away from me, like, stay out of my life," but now he wants her help. I'm just like, pick one or the other, dude. Like, either you want her help and she's gonna be a Budinsky or you don't. So I don't know. I'm a little on the fence about this.
Yeah, but at that
I
point,
have things to
they'd
say.
moved on from that
They already had
situation.
Thanksgiving and they sat, they broke
Yeah.
bread together.
They
By that
broke
point.
bread.
Also, I think this is fair because of how serious it was and he was desperate. And I think that this push-pull thing, it mirrors kind of his relationship with his dad. It's like you want somebody to care about you, you want somebody to take care of you, and you know, they hurt you, but you still want that relationship preserved. And I think that that's maybe like a little nugget in the back of his mind, but also because of that trauma background, he would be more inclined to do it himself. That's what he wanted, during that whole cheating incident. I can do it myself. So the fact that he asked her for help displays how absolutely desperate he is and how much this is an absolute last resort for him. He does not want it both ways. Like he tried as long as he possibly could and he came up on the edge of finals and said, I have to ask for help at this point. I cannot do this by myself.
I guess, but like he's also studying with Julie and like, yeah, she has to go meet these econ people, but like if he's hanging out with Julie, like ask her for help. I don't know. I just feel like
Julie's
it's
not
convenient. Like
purported
he
to
he
be
wants
like,
her help when it's convenient for him, and I don't know if that's fair to
I
like.
don't find this at all any amount convenient for him. It's the edge of finals and he might fail the class if he doesn't get some help. I wouldn't call that convenient. And Julie's not an expert. The Keats, Julie's not throwing that around like she's, Felicity's the go-to person for this particular problem. She's got a particular set of skills.
I guess, but he rejected her help when she was trying to resolve the situation. So to me now it's
Because
like
she tried to she almost ruined his whole
no,
shit. Like,
not the rewriting the essay, but she was like, "Okay, let me go and tell them it was my fault." He's like, "No, I don't want your help. Like, just give me the essay. That I have to memorize all this, blah blah blah." Like, she was trying to help and make it better, and he rejected it, and now he wants her help. So it's just kind of weird to
yes,
me.
as I explained before, that was his trauma response coming through where you've proven to me that I can't count on you. I have to do this myself, like
So then,
always.
yeah,
Like I
why is he
can't count on
coming back
people around.
now?
He literally said he's desperate. And Elena even described him as desperate later too. She used that word desperate. Desperate. That's dire straits. Like this is he's waited till the last possible moment to ask, like how many 30 some hours till finals and now he's asking. This was not something that he hatched this plan to I'm gonna use this girl.
I'm not
I don't
saying it
think
was planned. I just think, yeah, he goes back and forth all the time on like wanting her help and wanting her in his life. And I could see how
I
it would
don't
be
know. I think they had
confusing.
already kind of prepared things a little bit enough to at least socialize at that point, but I don't think he wants this. I think he needs it.
All right.
Yeah.
Agree to disagree.
As per usual.
Per usual. Well, of course, Felicity agrees to help Ben. And he's like, "Oh, are you sure?" Like, of course she's sure. But he's like, "Are you sure? Because I saw you studying with Noel. Like, he won't mind." And Felicity's a little surprised. She's like, "No, like, he won't be bothered. It's fine." So Ben's like, "Okay, great," and leaves. And then Elena asks her, like, "Really? You have time to do all of your own work and help someone else, and Noel won't mind that you're studying with Ben?" And she doesn't believe any of that for 1 second, because you can't get anything past Elena.
I'm with her.
And then we see that Noel catches up with Richard outside. He's been looking for him all over the place, and if only these people had cell phones, this episode wouldn't happen because they wouldn't have to
It would be so different.
chase everyone around from dorm to library to reading room to card catalog, whatever.
Or even beepers. You know, they all had beepers
Oh
in that one
yeah,
episode.
Noel
That
has a
would've been
beeper
helpful.
now. He's got a beeper. So, yeah, Noel finally tracks down Richard and asks him basically not to report him. And Richard says, "Well, did you report me in my barbecue?" And Noel says, "Yeah, it's my job." And Richard says, "Is it your job to feel up your advisee?" That was just funny.
Nice comeback.
It was, I mean, fair,
It's
fair.
funny, yeah. It was good.
But Noel says that that's not as dangerous as having an open fire in his dorm room. And Richard says, "Don't take the Clinton defense with me." And I was like, "Oh, the 90s. Like, even I'm too young to really understand that reference. Like, is that the like I didn't inhale defense that he's talking about? Or
Mm.
it's not actually
Monica
sex?"
Lewinsky.
Okay.
No,
No?
because basically the whole impeachment thing, he was like, "Yeah, I'm a shady, low down husband, but I don't need to be kicked out of presidency for it. It's not that
Ah.
bad. It's not like kick me out of presidency bad. It's like not a cool, moral, ethical thing to
Mhm.
do, but
But
y'all
it's
need to
not a
relax and
crime.
like it's not a kick me out of yeah, kind of crime. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, I was still, I think, too young to really
Yeah.
get what was going on with the Clinton Lewinsky stuff. But
I wasn't. It was a whole mess.
I mean, like,
Remember?
I remember her, and there were trials and stuff was going on, and there was an affair, but like all the details and all of the characters, I
Oh
didn't
no.
realize until I watched
I was very conscious of it.
the FX show. What was it? American Crime
Oh,
Story. That was like,
oh, okay. I didn't see that season.
oh, that was good.
I might have to take a look at that.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. And so then Richard, yeah, he's like, "Don't take the Clinton defense with me." And he's like, "I'm still trying to decide." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "I'm still trying to decide whether or not you're fit to be an RA." As if it's
That's
Richard's job to figure out if he's okay,
yeah, and
if
that's
he's a
such a
good fit.
low blow. Like
Yeah.
a good yeah, fit to be. That's so mean.
Also, we're not talking about like again, not the president. Like, it's an RA of
Yeah,
one
exactly.
floor of a dorm. Like, please.
Yeah.
Then Noel finds Elena in the card catalog junction, still studying and doing her method, and he's wondering if she's seen Felicity. And Elena says that they should put LoJacks on each other. But
That's hilarious.
yeah,
I love that.
I feel like Megan also maybe says something similar. Like, everyone's always like, "Have you seen Felicity? Have you seen this person?" And again, if they all had cell phones, this like
Mhm.
half the show would never happen.
Yeah, and we wouldn't have this lovely supporting cast to consult with to find the other person, so
Hmm. And all the shenanigans. But Elena tells Noel that Felicity's working with Ben. And she's like, "And don't worry, you don't have to pretend that this doesn't rip you to shreds." And Noel says that it doesn't. But Elena's like, "Look, he was desperate for help." She said, with the whole essay thing, that she basically needed to help him, but she was going to leave a message for him on his answering machine to meet up.
I like that she offered that, like, you can basically be vulnerable here and say, like, "Yeah, that sucks, and it is ripping me to shreds." And I think we're seeing way more insecurity from Noel than we ever have before in any other episode. Like, just even him leaving, saying, "Don't hook up with Ben while I'm gone," like, that already is, like, setting
Yeah.
the stage for how insecure he is. And then, like, "No, this is fine. I'm not bothered." Okay.
Yeah. It
We'll see
was
about that.
such a stark contrast from the Thanksgiving episode where he was wearing his trench coats and drinking coffee and, talking about moving in with
Get
Hannah.
it together.
And then all of a sudden now he's insecure and immature. There was just like really big difference.
Well, and he was so confident with Felicity last
Mhm.
week. Like, he
Yeah.
kissed her, like, he just
Yeah.
seemed so confident
Mhm.
in his feelings and that, like, this is a thing now. And yeah, now he's spiraling. Probably doesn't help that he has all this other stress on him, but yeah, he's definitely maybe an anxious attachment style. I don't know.
Ah, nice. Good one, girl.
But I like that you brought up their friendship too, because you could just little bits we see Noel and Elena becoming closer, like they're genuinely friends, I think.
Yeah, I did like that. I wish there was more of it. I always want more of Elena in any capacity, but definitely when they're developing some of their friendships, I wish they went a little bit deeper.
All right, so now we're in the library lounge and it's 12:28. The show slide says PM, but I believe they meant AM because I'm assuming it's midnight and 28 minutes.
Yeah, based
So,
on the time frames that they had before and after, we'd have to conclude AM, but yeah,
yeah,
I didn't
so
even notice that it said PM.
that was a typo, I think, because we only have 31 hours and
Yeah, the
32 minutes.
hour
It
didn't
didn't, yeah, it
not
didn't
time
subtract by
traveling.
12. So
Our
anyway,
math
so
isn't
it's a
mathing.
little after midnight and 31 hours and 32 minutes to finals now. And Felicity is explaining one of these odes to Ben. And she says that fantasy and dreams can distract you from painful reality. Again,
Mm,
also very Felicity. All this
mhm.
dreams and
Lots of this content
fantasy.
coming through.
Yeah. I don't know what
Yeah.
her painful reality is. Maybe just that, like, he doesn't like her, but
Mhm.
I don't know. That was also very poignant.
Well, reality in general. It maybe not
True.
painful in her case, but just
Yeah.
yeah, her head's in the clouds a lot.
And so then, as they're talking about this poem, some guy who's, some bald guy who looks like he's in his 30s has the hiccups and interrupts their conversation. And so Felicity and Ben turn toward him and try to give him some tricks to get rid of these hiccups because they're annoying everyone in the whole room. I'm like, dude, if you know this about yourself, that it's a stress response, like, again, go study in your dorm room instead of hiccuping all over this library lounge. So that was annoying. Um, but then Ben asks Felicity when she's going home for Christmas, and it turns out they're both going home at the same time to the airport. So Ben asks her if she wants to share a ride, and again, of course, she says yes. And then Ben asks her if Noel is going with her. And she's like, "What? No, why?" And because Hiccup Guy is continuing to hiccup and the tricks of the trade are not working, Felicity suggests that they go to the reading room to get away from the Hiccups guy. So then they leave. Then Noel goes to check his messages, and Felicity left him one on his answering machine. And she basically tells him the deal that she's going to go study with Ben. So hopefully they can meet up later. Then we see that Sean is still going around with his cooler of fruit while Noel's on the phone. He's like, "No, I don't want any fruit, go away." And then Sean goes and runs into Julie, who's studying for her econ test. And Sean's like, "Oh, yeah, I studied that at Harvard." And he's like, "Well, not like the university, but I did a summer program there on econ, supply and demand. I end up pricing things. I know all about that stuff." And Julie's basically like, "Well, then why are you such a dummy selling fruit for $1? Because back in the 90s, that was a lot of money. Now today, that's not that's nothing because of inflation. But back then, that was like $1. Who would pay $1 for this?" And so Julie tries to show him that that's a stupid idea. And some guy walking by, she just like takes, an apple or an orange, is like, "Hey, you want to buy this for $1?" The guy's like, "Sure." And he just hands over his money to Julie. And Sean gets dollar signs in his eyes. He's like, "Oh my God, of course, beautiful girl selling fruit." It's like the Bible. I'm like, "Oh God, Sean." Too much like biblical fertility weirdness from him in this episode.
I still don't think anyone would be buying fruit, even no, not even from a pretty girl. Sorry.
I wouldn't underestimate what men do. It's the equivalent of OnlyFans today,
Oh, oh, okay, that makes
maybe.
sense.
So then at the dorms, Noel is looking for Felicity, but instead runs into Megan. And he's like, "Have you seen Felicity?" That's half this show. And she's like, "No, I don't think so. Everyone around here has been well dressed."
A good one.
And Noel explains to her, even though she does not care, that Felicity was supposed to help him study, and he's all stressed out. So Megan says that it sounds like he needs smart powder. And she says that smart powder is how she has a social life and still gets decent grades. It's all organic, it's a mixture of roots and minerals and all kinds of things. And all you do is you just stir some in some water, and magically you get a photographic memory. And I would expect more from Noel. He's a smart guy, but she sells him some for $10. And public service announcement, people, don't take anything Megan gives you. Like, that should be obvious, I think.
I loved it. What she said, if you're gonna actually answer that, could you not? Like, when he was trying to tell her what was going on.
Like, I really
She's
don't
so
care.
funny. She's so funny.
Then we get to the third floor reading room. It's 2:06 a.m., 29 hours and 54 minutes to finals. And we see Julie is selling Sean's fruit using her flirtation skills with the guys. And she goes back to Sean. She's like, here's all your money. Now teach me econ. And apparently she still needs to sell all the fruit in the basket or the cooler. And then Sean will tutor her, I guess. And I'm thinking, Julie, is Sean really the guy that you want helping you study for econ? If you had to teach him, like, how to sell this fruit, I don't know that I'd be asking for his help.
I also didn't appreciate her having kind of to use flirtation and like her sexuality to sell something, given what had happened so very,
Very
very
icky.
recently.
True.
I didn't love that. I was like, no.
Yeah, not a fan. Then we see Noel mix up his smart powder. It's very, very bright, vibrant color, it's fizzing a little bit. And then he drinks it, and it goes down pretty rough. He grimaces. He gets kind of some shivers and
He starts twitching a little.
he twitches
He's
and
so funny instantly.
freaks out the people around him. So the smart powder sounds very gross. It looks very gross.
Oh, it looked cute. It reminded me of like maybe like Pop Rocks, like the sound of the fizzing.
I just mean like how he reacted.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like it looks like it's gross because of how he reacted.
Like it tasted bad, yeah.
Yeah.
But I like the color and the fizz, and I thought that would make such a cute cocktail.
I know. I was like, that kind of looks good.
Yeah. like a Christmas cocktail, a winter
Mhm.
cocktail, like that bright red. Ew,
Okay.
you could really like fancy that up and make something
Next
cute happen.
episode, smart powder cocktails.
Yeah.
I know. I want to look up the recipe. I wish if there is one.
We'll make one.
I'd be so curious.
I'll make.
yeah,
I'll
we'll
make,
have to invent one.
I was doing a lot of cocktail stuff for Thanksgiving, so I'm sure I could find something that would work and make it look like smart
Yes.
powder.
Excellent.
I'll bring it to the next one.
Very good.
Then we are in the silent reading room, 3:17 a.m., 28 hours and 43 minutes to finals. And we have Ben and Felicity in the silent reading room, and Ben is whispering one of his odes to Felicity. And of course, everyone around him shushes him because, again, like, why are you going to the silent reading room if you're trying to talk and teach each other things? Like,
Yeah, what
why
were
are
they
you
thinking?
why are you in the silent reading room? Unless that's the only
That's
place
offensive.
that
Yeah.
has chairs left. I don't know.
Come
But
on.
doesn't he have a loft that, like,
Yeah, why
Sean's
a
out
loft?
selling
Yeah,
fruit?
Sean's not even there. Yeah. Exactly.
So I don't know. But again,
But-
it's for the drama that is about to
Mhm,
unfold.
Of course. Yeah. But the way she's looking at him, she's like looks like so lovesick, and I can just picture her when she was in high school daydreaming about him and staring at him either from afar or whatever. Like she looks so entranced by him. in
He's
that
literally reading her poetry. Like,
Hot.
I looked
like,
it up.
of
It's poetry
course.
about dying, though. It wasn't like, but it sounds romantic the
Wow.
way he says it. So I'm like, okay, let's do this.
But yeah, they're in the silent reading room, so everyone around him shushes him. But then we get to the card catalog junction again, 3:38 a.m., 28 hours and 22 minutes to finals. All these people, everyone's still awake at 3:30 in the morning, still studying. But Noel is tripping balls. He runs into Elena again, and he basically shouts, "Hey," at her. He's like, "Hey, hey." And she can tell right away. She's like, "What the hell are you on?" And he is sweating. He's, of course, looking for Felicity, but he's like, "Look, as a future doctor, like, is my heart beating too fast?" And she takes his pulse, and she's like, "There's no way. That's not possible. Like, that can't be your heartbeat." So we know something is wrong with Noel now. So Noel runs back to Megan to see if there were beets in the smart powder. And she's like, "I don't know. It said there are some roots in there." And he's like, "Look, I can't have beets. Like, I get super hyper when I eat beets." And I love that they set this whole thing up last week with Hannah. It was a great,
yeah, that
it
was
was a
really cool. I really
great
appreciated
teaser.
that.
Mhm. And so then Megan's like, "Well, you're about to get super hyper because that smart powder is concentrated." And then Noel says, "Stop talking so slowly." Even though she's talking like a normal person. And so Megan's like, "Well, wow, like, okay, yeah, he's definitely high as a kite on this."
He's
this
wrecked.
beet powder.
Oh boy.
Then back to the silent reading room. Ben decides to kind of press Felicity again about Noel. He's like, "Oh, the reason I was asking you about Noel before is because I saw you kissing." And then, he was whispering and they got the subtitles, but then she gets loud like, "Oh, uh-huh." Like, "Oh, yeah, you saw us kissing. Oh, okay." And, everyone looks at them and shushes them again. And so he was just wondering, he's curious what they are. And of course, who should walk by but Hypernal. And he sees them talking really closely in this gorgeously dimly lit silent reading room, and he's looking through the window at them, and he's frustrated and jealous for sure. And Felicity continues to talk to Ben about Noel, and she says, like, "I don't know what we are, but he's the greatest guy that she knows. He's smart, funny, and one of the kindest souls she's ever met." And she says that she thinks he's probably her best friend. Meanwhile, Noel is basically flipping out outside of the door, watching them from the window. He's trying to contain himself, and we get the subtitles of his reactions, "Arg," and he's just very frustrated, but he's trying to keep it in a little bit, not working so well. So then Felicity keeps telling Ben that Noel is always there to help anytime she needs him, and is one of the most level-headed guys she knows. And then Noel bursts in shouting, "This is unacceptable. Like, you blew me off to study with him. If you think that I'm going to go get jerked around by all of this." And Ben's like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa. She's just helping me study. She owes me after the essay stuff." And he's like, "No, no, no. She's supposed to be helping me. She's supposed to be liking me." And Ben's like, "Look, like, settle down." But then Felicity just says, "I've had enough." She stands up. She's like, "I've been spending all this time trying to help you guys. You two figure it out. Like, I have to go study for my no, my own exams." And then she packs up all her stuff, and then she turns to everyone else in the room. She's like, "And I know, shh, yeah, I get it. It's the silent reading room." But I'm like, "I don't think you get it." And then, of course, who happens to see all of this but Richard again? He's at a computer and he says, "You are definitely not fit to be an RA." And he packs up his stuff and leaves. And then Ben bursts out laughing because it's a funny situation. And
That was hilarious. Yes.
Noel's frustrated. And obviously, he's like, "Crap, I just messed up."
The whole time I was watching this, I kept just imagining Dr. Joe laughing with me the first time I watched this with you. Your laugh was just going through my head because the scene is so funny. Oh my
Like
god.
the first ever time
Aw.
you saw it.
When she saw it, yeah, when I showed this show to
Oh,
her.
Yes, because that was Melissa who introduced Felicity to me.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah, that's nice. Thanks for sharing that because I have no memory of so many things. Because I was laughing quite a bit this time too.
Mhm.
It's still funny. 20 years later.
and the fact that we still get the subtitles when they're
Yes.
shouting, it's
Yeah.
just perfect.
Yes, and they're in all caps to
Chef's
represent
kiss.
that they're shouting. Yes,
So
I
good.
love that.
Then we move on, and Noel is in the cafeteria chewing feverishly on a pen cap. So he's still hyper, but it seems like he might be coming down a little bit from his beat high. And Ben is also in the cafeteria, and he brings Noel a glass of milk and a sandwich. And Noel's like, "I'm not hungry." But Ben's like, "You got to eat something. You need it in your system." He's like, "I was on the track team, and some of his teammates would have weird reactions to these power shakes that they would take." But he was like, "Food should help." So Noel takes the milk and eats the sandwich. And basically, Ben tells Noel that he's like, "You should know Felicity likes you." And Noel's like, "Nah, you're the one. You're the prize, the unrequited nightmare. It's just the way it is." And Ben's like, "Nah, she was talking all about you and that you were her best friend and one of the most level headed guys she knows." And then Noel says, "Oh, well, that's sexy." Which I get that there's this stereotype out there that like nice guys finish last or that women like bad boys, but I just want to say Noel is sexy and level-headed. So that is sexy to me. But Ben's like, "No, no, no, trust me. She likes you. She told me that she likes you." Which I don't know if that was 100% accurate. Like she was like, "I don't know what we are, but he's my best friend and he's this and he's that." I don't know if she was like, "I really like him." But he's trying to make Noel feel better.
He's,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
being very reassuring.
Yeah. But then Noel says, well, was that just before I burst into the room like a psychopath? And Ben's like, yeah, about 3 seconds. So
Yeah.
they laugh over that. And I think it was just really nice to see them get along and laugh together. Like, I feel like only a couple of interactions where it's just the two of them that we've seen,
Mhm.
and one of them was the cheating thing, and that did not go
Yeah,
well. And so
right.
it was nice to see them get along. Like, there's no bad blood. They've never fought, but like we never really see them be friendly
Right.
either.
Yeah. I was just gonna say I forgot to pick a hottest Ben moment of the episode, but I'd say this not necessarily hot, but like just so sweet. I love that he took care of Noel and like, made him food and talked him down. So sexiest moment right there.
Yes, and my follow-up to that is that it reminds me of the passage that Felicity was reading about the kids not being nurtured, and it's just really cool that Ben is
Mm.
providing that nurturing and reassurance to Noel in this moment. And it just makes me think that Noel didn't have that a lot because he seems to be the one who takes care of everybody else in his family. And it just makes me think that both of them were parentified in their families and had that role reversal where they're the ones taking care of the adults around them. So I think that was nice that Ben could take care of Noel in this moment.
That's nice. And I feel like, well, maybe the only person that Noel would believe this from is Felicity, but like Ben's a close second. Like to tell him
Yeah,
like
because he's
she
the
likes you.
competition
Yeah, he's
essentially.
kind of the and like the only thing I would have loved even more if Ben was like, dude, you can have her. Like, there's no competition here. I don't want
Yeah.
her. Like I'm not trying to get her. Like, I feel like that would have also been helpful. Like, she's all yours. Like, I'm not fighting for
Maybe,
her.
maybe, but the deeper issue, his insecurities are about how Felicity feels, not about how
Yeah,
Ben feels.
that's true.
So
So then Noel kind of closes up the conversation and says, well, she probably thinks I'm a freak. And Ben says, I'm sure she doesn't. But then Felicity tells Sally, Noel was such a freak. So she thought he was acting insane. But basically said finals were the next day and that she was going to be in hell. Luckily, though, Elena gave her the secrets to her M&M system, and Felicity tells Sally that her first college finals experience went by in a blur. And we see that Noel offers Richard some charcoal as a peace offering, but Noel probably not the best idea. It's kind of a bribe. So yeah, I wouldn't trust him to not like report that like you gave him some charcoal so he can continue to potentially burn the place down.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fire stuff around Noel. I wonder if
Mhm.
he's a fire sign.
oh, interesting. Yes. I love this.
I don't know. That's just the second fire reference that we've had so far.
Just a second. Oh.
It's so early on.
And then we see that it's finally exams time. They're all in their lecture halls taking their tests, and Felicity's taking one. But then Noel appears at the door of the lecture hall, and there's a little window. So he kind of gets her attention and waves her, like, needs to talk to her. So Felicity goes up to, I'm assuming the TA, he looked pretty young, and asks him if she can go to the bathroom. She's like, I know it's probably not allowed, but can I go to the bathroom? And he says, technically no, but you're cute. And she's like, ew, gross, never mind. He's like, I'm kidding. It's like, dude, that's a weird joke. Like,
Yeah, that was so tacky and gross.
like, what was the point of that? Icky. I didn't like that.
I didn't either.
So she does end up leaving or pretending to go to the bathroom, but goes to meet Noel outside, and he tells her that his uncle did die. And so he's leaving today, but he wanted to come by and say goodbye, but also apologize for his outburst the other day. And he finally says, too, don't eat anything Megan gives you ever because it might kill you. Which solid advice. But he basically said he wanted to see her because he realized that he was panicking about what they were, and he was basically just afraid that if they didn't nail down the definitions of their relationship that it would be gone when they got back. And he said, but that's just stupid because they're more than just a passing opportunity. And he said that whatever we are, I love, and I love what we are, and basically we can figure it out in January. And so they kiss goodbye, and he says, see you next year. So they parted on good terms. They resolved his outburst, and I'm glad that he came to the realization that he was overreacting and overly jealous in that situation.
Yeah, he got his wits back.
Mm-hmm. He came down from his beats.
The big stressors passed.
Then Felicity is packing for home and calls Ben to see about sharing a cab to the airport, as he brought up and suggested. But Ben answers the phone. He's in bed. Like, he's not going anywhere. He says that he's decided he's not going to go back to California. He's going to hang out in New York instead to see, what it looks like with snow, which a nice callback to the pilot.
Yes. Yes, that was very good.
So, yeah, they say goodbye and see you when we get back. And we then hear Sally's tape back to Felicity. And she says in the past few months, she's become a believer in not defining every single thing. And as she says that, we see Ben hang up the phone and curl up in bed next to Julie again.
Dun dun dun.
Yes.
So Sally says that she remembers her first Christmas in college, that she couldn't wait to go home to her childhood home, but that once she did get home with her parents, she was lying in her childhood bed and she actually felt homesick. So it was very cute that like she recognized that, yeah, you might be excited to go home, but this New York might be your new home now. And she said, good luck with you and Noel, and wishing you both 3,000 miles apart a Merry Christmas. And then the first Noel plays in the background, which I thought was kind of funny because Noel and Noel.
Clever.
But so yeah, Felicity leaves and goes with her bags down the elevator and goes back to California. But I just hate now we have more secrets and lies again when it comes to Ben and Julie. And it's just like, just be upfront already. Like, now you both know that Felicity's into Noel. Like, Julie knows all the dirty details. Ben saw them kissing, and now they've kind of talked a little bit in the silent reading room. So just be like, hey, we want to start dating. Or if they're not ready to define things and put a definition on anything yet either, just say that too. Just be like, hey, we still have feelings here that we want to pursue. Done. Like, if Ben truly believes that Felicity likes Noel, like, why is he lying now? I don't get it.
Okay. I have some thoughts.
I thought you might.
Yeah.
Well, so I thought that it was interesting. I find a lot of things interesting, of course, that their faces didn't look very happy. They weren't happy, gaga over the moon, like looking like the lovebirds, like compared to Felicity and Noel when they were together and that energy that they had. That energy is not here. I think there's a tremendous amount of stress around telling Felicity, and I don't know that it's just coming from Ben. It's probably coming from Julie too. Like I think she's also, holding that back. And because we know Felicity tends to have big emotional reactions. Remember that time she found out about Hannah and made a big scene in the restaurant? I mean,
but it's because
it's not like she takes things very
Noel
easy.
held it back for months or weeks of them knowing each other. So like,
that's an excellent point.
if they were just upfront now, like we're studying together more, after what happened to her, I was there for her. We're starting to get closer again. There might be some feelings here. We'd like to start dating. Not asking for her permission, but just being like, look,
yeah,
we might
this
start
is what's
seeing
up.
more of each other now. Like, it's the waiting and the lying and prolonging and hiding it from her that could then potentially cause an even bigger reaction, I think.
Girlfriend, I agree with
Okay.
you. I'm telling you why, because
All
you
right.
asked why the lying,
Yes.
and I'm trying to tell you.
All right.
I think they're trying to protect her because she is very sensitive and they care about her and they're trying to protect her feelings because, I mean, even we saw it. She was like staring all gaga-eyed at him when he was reading the poetry. So everybody knows there's something.
Of
I mean, like
course.
it was a big deal. So there's going to be a reaction, maybe not a terrible one, but I think they're trying to protect her feelings. And I think that's like some people pleasing stuff where what the people pleasers don't realize is it's the lie that often hurts more than the truth and that delay in the truth. And that makes it harder for people to trust people pleasers in the future because you don't know if they're being genuine or authentic or if they're like resenting you in the background because they're just telling you what you want to hear. So I think they're falling into that people pleasing trap of just trying to protect her, even though logically, rationally, it makes more sense to just be upfront as early as possible and not drag this out. And I think maybe they just wanted to have a little bit of peace before they rip all this open and have like a decent break with not having to deal with the stress of knowing that she's feeling a certain way about it. And also, I think this was unexpected. So, because he's the one who suggested to go to the airport together in the cab, like, I think this just like really happened like that night before. Like, I don't think this was going on in the background and we were not privy to it. I think it just like randomly happened. So they haven't even had time to process themselves. And yeah, you could say like, well, let's just say we don't know what we're doing yet, but maybe they're not even ready to say that much.
Yeah, I didn't really think too deeply about that scene. To me, it just seemed like Julie had distressed look on her face from her trauma and not due to thinking about Felicity in that moment. And like you said, like it was an unexpected thing that he stayed. And I think if it had been what's going on with them, they would have shown more of them together in that episode. But they were
Mhm.
never interacting in the episode at all. So it wasn't like we saw little bits of them like flirting or talking or anything. So I think it was
Yeah.
just Julie had this moment of, oh, I have to go home for Christmas. I'm still not ready. She wasn't ready when it was Thanksgiving. She's
Good
probably
point.
still not ready now. So maybe she just like needed Ben in that moment, and it didn't come across as like super romantic or anything what was happening.
Yeah, it didn't. It didn't. And again, yeah,
I
like
don't
because they
know.
don't
They're
have
in
that
bed
happy,
together.
bubbly energy.
Mhm.
But I mean, that doesn't have to mean that something happened. It could mean that she just appreciates the security
Yeah.
he can offer
Yeah.
her.
I'm not saying it's wrong. Like I actually like them together.
Of
I
course you
just
do.
not no.
Makes more room for another couple, maybe, if they're together.
That's not the only reason. I like how he's there for her during this whole thing.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I guess I just would have thought that the first time around, Julie hiding the
Would have
Ben
taught them
stuff.
a lesson.
Yeah, like the
Like,
whole
don't do that again.
conversation in the laundry room where she's like, I'm just going to do what I want instead of feeling bad about it. Like, I thought she maybe got the point at like, oh, yeah, maybe I should stop all the lying and just do what I want to do. But, you know,
If
we
she's
don't,
got a people pleaser streak in her, I
I was going to
think
say,
it
we
makes
don't
it
always
hard to do
learn
that.
from our mistakes.
No, not
So,
yeah, sometimes it takes a few mistakes to happen before they stick.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't think she's really thinking about Felicity right now. She's just still
yeah.
dealing with her issues, and that's not at the forefront.
That's fair, too. So lots of reasons why they wouldn't necessarily disclose all that right now.
All right. We'll see how that goes for them.
Yeah, we will.
We will see. So that's the end of finally. Our hay counter this week was 18. So we jumped up again, still not quite beating our previous record of 20, but pretty up there, which makes sense
Getting
after all
close.
the chasing around, multiple people going to different libraries and
Lots of
reading rooms.
locations.
Lots of haze. Yeah.
I just want to clarify. I was just going to say, no shade to people pleasers. I am surrounded by people pleasers in my life, actually. So I wasn't trying to hate
How'd you
on
know?
people
No.
pleasers. Yeah. No, I'm serious. Like a lot of people I know that I'm very close with and care about a lot are people pleasers. Ironically enough, even though that drives me crazy, it just works out that way.
Hey,
But I love them. I love them.
I respect people who can be direct and just say what they're feeling. It's an amazing quality. I admire it.
Excellent.
Which is why I think they should just be upfront. But
There
I
you
get
go.
it. I probably wouldn't be upfront. I'd be like, "Oh shit, she's going to be pissed." So,
Yeah, exactly. It's scary.
yeah.
It's scary to piss somebody off or to hurt them.
Well, this is our last episode with a little mid-season break here. So, Felicity goes home for the holidays and we're going on a break for the holidays. So, our next episode, which is Give Me an O, episode 11, we'll be back with that around mid-January. So, in the meantime, everyone, happy holidays, whatever you celebrate. We'll see you in the new year.
Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.
Felicity Was Here is produced, written, and edited by Heather, Melissa, and Dr. Joe. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Felicity Was Here Pod. If you're enjoying the pod, please leave us a review and help us spread the word. We appreciate you and would love to hear from Felicity superfans like us. So send us your feedback, ask us your burning questions, or just say hey at felicitywasherepod@gmail.com. We may even read your note in a future episode. Talk to you all next week.